My younger sister, Alyssa, has always been the golden child, entitled, manipulative, and completely shameless. 3 weeks before our older sister Elena's wedding, Alyssa announced at a family dinner that she was pregnant. The father? Elena's fiancé, Nathan. The affair had been going on for 6 months behind Elena's back. The betrayal was devastating. But Alyssa, ever brazen, went ahead and married Nathan in the exact venue Elena had reserved. She even wore a white dress while 7 months pregnant and tried to steal Elena's original wedding dress. She reused the same vendors and copied every detail of the wedding Elena had planned. Elena, who was 33 at the time, took it hard, but she didn't let it destroy her. With the help of me and a few close friends, she picked herself back up. A year later, she met Julian, a 36-year-old investment banker originally from Vancouver, who understood her trauma and treated her like royalty. They fell in love and, 2 years later, had a beautiful destination wedding in Lake Como, Italy. I was proud to stand by her side as her maid of honor. Despite everything, Elena invited our parents to the wedding. Even though they had attended Alyssa and Nathan's without batting an eye, they didn't show up this time. Fast forward 5 years. Our parents reached out to Elena, asking to reconcile. Against my advice, she agreed to meet for dinner, bringing Julian along. Alyssa and Nathan were also there, along with their 2 children, aged 6 and 4. That night, Alyssa made passive-aggressive remarks all evening. Snide comments about fertility, how some couples just aren't meant to be parents, and how Nathan is the best father anyone could ask for. Elena and Julian, who had been trying to conceive for years, remained calm. Julian squeezed Elena's hand beneath the table, silently reassuring her. Then came the bombshell. As dessert was being served, Alyssa stood up and announced she was pregnant again. She turned to Elena and said, "I know it must sting, watching me build this beautiful family with Nathan, but I appreciate you being here. It must be hard knowing I'm expecting my third while you can't have even one. Still, your courage is admirable." The silence was suffocating. That's when Julian stood. His voice was calm but commanding. "Actually, we have some news too. Elena and I are expecting twins, thanks to IVF. And as of Monday, I'll be Nathan's new boss. I've just completed a hostile takeover of the firm where he works. Nathan, your employment status will be changing rather abruptly." The room froze. But Julian wasn't done. He turned directly to Nathan. "Oh, and those 3 other women you've been seeing? They've all been contacted by a lawyer friend of ours. One of them is pregnant, by the way. Alyssa, you may want to get tested." He looked back at Alyssa. "And that prenup you signed. Remember how desperate you were to marry Nathan? That infidelity clause? It means you walk away with nothing. No money, no house, no Nathan." He turned back to Nathan, who was now pale and sweating. "You didn't win a husband, Alyssa. You stole a cheater. Elena?" She upgraded. Alyssa tried to regain control. Laughing nervously, she pulled out her phone and announced that she'd been recording Julian and Elena's private conversations for 2 years. She threatened to expose Julian for insider trading and hinted at secrets from Elena's college days. Elena stood, slowly and deliberately. She rested a hand on her stomach and spoke evenly. "You really should have checked who owns the security company that installed your cameras." Alyssa blinked. "What? The company you used?" "Julian acquired it 18 months ago. Every recording you made. We knew. We've been feeding you exactly what we wanted you to hear." Suddenly, Alyssa's phone screen went black. So did Nathan's. Mine too. Everyone's, except Elena's. She pulled out her phone and tapped the screen. Speakers hidden in the dining room came alive with Alyssa's voice. "Nathan's too stupid to catch on. I've been siphoning money from his accounts for months. By the time I'm done, he'll have nothing left." The next clip was worse. Alyssa's voice, clearly recorded, described how she had slipped something into Elena's drink 2 years ago at a family barbecue, causing Elena's miscarriage. Nathan jumped up, furious, but Julian calmly stepped between them. Nathan backed off. Alyssa began to panic. "Those are fake. You can't prove anything." Elena smiled, cold, confident. "They're not fake. They're time-stamped. Some even have video, like the one where you're teaching your son to call me the sad aunt who can't have babies. He's 4, Alyssa." Our mother finally spoke, pleading with both sisters to stop. Elena turned on her. Years of silence and favoritism boiled over. "She stole my fiancé, wore my dress, Copied my wedding. Used my pain as ammunition. And you call it drama? You've always protected her. You always took her side. I couldn't stay silent either. When she copied Elena's college essays, you called it flattery. When she stole her fiancé, you said Elena should be happy for her sister. You didn't stay neutral, you enabled her. Alyssa, now in full meltdown mode, started crying. I'm pregnant. You can't do this to me. Think of my children. Elena replied coldly. I am thinking of your children. They deserve better than a mother who lies, manipulates, and poisons her own sister. She played one final recording, Alyssa arguing with Nathan over his affairs, not because she was hurt, but because she feared losing money. Suddenly, Nathan's phone began buzzing. Notifications flooded in, bank freezes, legal threats, social media posts from the women he'd been cheating with. When Alyssa threatened to sue, Elena calmly asked, with what lawyer? Marcus? The one you were having an affair with? His wife knows now. She's a senior partner. Don't count on him picking up. Alyssa was crumbling. Her mask, finally off. Elena stood tall, hand on her growing belly. You have 48 hours to remove your hidden cameras from my house. I've changed the locks. Security will supervise. And Alyssa, don't call me your sister again. Sisters don't poison each other. To our parents, Elena added. You chose her. So be it. But my children will never know the grandparents who stood by while one daughter tried to destroy the other. As Elena and Julian left, Alyssa was sobbing, real, ugly sobs. Nathan stood frozen, reading his financial ruin in real time. My parents looked broken. As I walked out behind Elena, my mother asked, Where are you going? I looked her in the eyes. To celebrate the twins. With my real sister, the one you should have protected. That night, I drove in silence to Elena's house. Her husband, Julian, was already home. The porch light was on, and she opened the door before I could even knock. Her face was tired, but the relief in her eyes was unmistakable. We hugged without saying a word. Inside, Julian was in the kitchen making chamomile tea. I sat at the table, still processing everything that had happened. How long have you known about the poisoning? I asked, accepting the warm mug. Elena let out a long breath and instinctively placed a hand over her stomach. 6 months, she said. I found the video while checking our security footage. I was looking for something completely unrelated. At first, I couldn't believe it. Even after everything Alyssa had done, I never thought she would go that far. The next morning, my phone rang at 6 a.m. It was our mother, hysterical. Alyssa had shown up at their house around midnight with the children, confused and crying. Nathan hadn't come home. She had just discovered he had emptied their joint savings account before his business accounts were frozen. Later that morning, I met Elena for breakfast and gave her the update. She stirred her decaf coffee with calm resolve. She's going to escalate, she said. Alyssa never learned how to lose. She was right. By noon, Alyssa had called me 17 times. The voicemails shifted from pleading to rage to veiled threats. That afternoon, Elena invited me into her home office. One wall was covered in timelines, printed emails, bank records, and photos. It looked like a detective's war room. I've been preparing for this for 2 years, she explained. Every lie, every move she might make. I've been one step ahead. She showed me folders of evidence, bank statements showing Alyssa had been siphoning money from Nathan's accounts, screenshots of texts with her multiple affair partners, even recordings of Alyssa coaching her children to insult Elena at family gatherings. The worst part, Elena said, pulling out a manila folder, is what she's done to her kids. She's been using them as weapons since they were toddlers. 3 days passed in uneasy quiet. Then Alyssa escalated again. She showed up at Julian's investment firm with the kids, causing a loud scene in the lobby. She screamed that Julian had ruined her life, accusing him of theft and manipulation. Security had to escort her out, but not before several clients witnessed the meltdown. That night, Julian came home looking more shaken than I'd ever seen him. She's trying to sabotage my work now, he told Elena. Some of the partners are nervous about the attention. I'm sorry, Elena said. We're in this together, Julian reassured her. I knew what I was getting into. This isn't your fault. But Alyssa wasn't finished. The next day, she created several fake social media accounts. She posted warped versions of their shared past, claiming Elena was the jealous, manipulative sister who had always envied her. She uploaded photos from Elena's original wedding plans, falsely claiming Elena had copied her ideas. Elena remained calm, documenting everything. Let her keep going, she said. Every post is more evidence. Days later, Alyssa used the children again. She had them call Elena, clearly reading from scripts she'd written. The 6-year-old's voice trembled as he said, "And Elena, Mommy says you hate us. Why don't you love us anymore?" Elena left the room, eyes filled with tears. "They're just kids," she whispered. "They didn't ask for this." Meanwhile, Nathan's life was unraveling. He had been staying with Sabrina, the woman he had gotten pregnant, but things exploded when 2 other girlfriends showed up at her apartment. The confrontation ended up on social media, with videos of Nathan being chased down the street by angry women. He called me in desperation. "You have to help me talk to Elena. I'll do anything to make this stop." "You made your choices, Nathan," I told him. "Elena just stopped letting you get away with them." Our parents were overwhelmed. They housed Alyssa and the children, trying to stay neutral. My mother called daily, oscillating between defending Alyssa and expressing horror at her actions. Then Alyssa made a fatal legal error. She impersonated Elena over the phone to try to access her fertility records. The clinic flagged the attempt immediately and contacted Elena. With this, she had solid evidence: identity theft and attempted medical fraud. Elena filed a police report. Panicked, Alyssa showed up at my apartment at 2 a.m., pounding on the door. "You have to make her stop," she shouted. "I'm your sister too." I didn't open the door. I called building security. The next day, Elena's lawyer sent Alyssa a comprehensive cease and desist letter, detailing every incident: harassment, impersonation, defamation. It was thorough and unignorable. Alyssa's response was to beg our parents to co-sign a loan so she could fight Elena's lies in court. This time, our father refused. "We've enabled you long enough," he told her. "You poisoned your sister. That's not something you just get past." That rejection broke something in Alyssa. She pulled the children out of school, claiming Elena had spies there. She moved them into a cheap motel and spiraled further. The school reported their extended absence. A welfare check from Child Protective Services found the children living in unsanitary conditions, eating only fast food, while Alyssa filmed rambling videos about being persecuted. Elena, now in her 6th month of pregnancy, was placed on partial bed rest due to stress. I stayed with her most days, helping with meals and errands. We avoided talking about Alyssa. Instead, we focused on baby names, decorating the nursery, and making space for a fresh start. But Alyssa refused to fade into the background. She began lurking in the parking lot during Elena's OB/GYN appointments. She wouldn't approach her, just stood across the lot, watching. It was deeply unsettling. Julian hired private security to escort Elena to appointments. Alyssa filmed the guards and posted more videos online. This time, though, the comments had shifted. "Stalking a pregnant woman? Seriously? You poisoned your own sister. Get help." A week later, Nathan's world collapsed. The board officially fired him for embezzlement. His assets were frozen. Sabrina had her baby, a girl, and immediately filed for child support. 2 other women followed with their own legal actions. Desperate, Nathan went to the police. He confessed everything: his affairs, the theft, Alyssa's poisoning attempt, and her ongoing harassment. He offered to testify against Alyssa in exchange for a lighter sentence. When detectives showed up at Alyssa's motel, she lost control. She screamed at officers, threw objects, and traumatized her children in the process. That was the final straw. Child Protective Services removed the children and placed them with our parents. That night, Alyssa sent one final message to Elena. It was a video of herself on a bridge, threatening to jump unless Elena called off the lawyers and sent her money. Elena called emergency services immediately. Police found Alyssa and brought her to a hospital for psychiatric evaluation. She was placed on a 72-hour hold. And during that hold, even more truth came out. 3 years into Jessica's extended sentence, she was diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder by the prison psychiatrist. No one in the family was surprised, except Jessica, who fired her public defender for not preventing the evaluation in the first place. She refused treatment, claiming there was nothing wrong with her and that regaining custody of her children would fix everything. Meanwhile, our parents continued to wrestle with guilt. They questioned every decision, wondering if different parenting choices might have prevented this entire catastrophe. Therapy helped them understand they hadn't created Jessica's behavior. They had only failed to correct it. Rebecca rarely mentioned Jessica anymore. When she did, it was with sadness, not bitterness. She made her choice, she'd say simply. The children, now older, were beginning to ask tougher questions. "Why can't we see Mom?" the eldest asked during a therapy session. Our parents answered honestly but gently, explaining that their mother had made bad choices and needed to learn how to be kind before they could reconnect. The therapist recommended honesty tempered by age appropriateness, and that's how we proceeded. Rebecca's twins, now energetic 4-year-olds named Elena and Samuel, were thriving. They knew nothing of the trauma that had preceded their birth. They played with their cousins, attended preschool, and called our parents Grandma and Grandpa without a trace of hesitation. They were safe, happy, and unaware of the chaos their extended family had endured to make that safety possible. Klaus, the man Jessica had manipulated from prison, was released. He immediately left the state, having found another vulnerable woman to exploit. With his departure, a heavy cloud lifted. But Jessica, true to form, found new ways to stir trouble. She began filing lawsuits from prison, one against Rebecca for alienation of affection, another against our parents for kidnapping her children, and even one against Malik's company for fraud and conspiracy. All were swiftly dismissed as frivolous, but still cost time and legal fees. Jessica also began writing a memoir from her cell, self-publishing it through a vanity press. It portrayed her as a tragically misunderstood heroine, with Rebecca cast as the jealous sister masterminding her downfall. When excerpts were posted online, even Jessica's few remaining sympathizers distanced themselves. The lies were blatant, and her portrayal of events unhinged. The final straw came when the publisher tried to contact Jessica's children for a follow-up book. Our parents obtained a restraining order. The judge agreed with the therapist's assessment. Any contact would undo years of healing. The publisher was banned from approaching or referencing the children in any capacity. Despite everything, Rebecca's focus remained on her family. She and Malik kept their distance from the drama, but remained prepared. Their home was secure, their routines documented for legal safety, and their children protected. Jessica's own children, especially the eldest, were slowly beginning to process the truth. He once wrote a school essay about choosing kindness over anger. The middle child, once silent, was now a budding artist, painting vibrant scenes of animals and sunny fields. The youngest had no memory of Jessica at all and simply referred to our parents as his true guardians. Rebecca, despite it all, refused to hate Jessica. She chose hate. "I chose peace," she'd say. And somehow, through every storm, she had built a life from the ashes. Then came the news. Jessica was being released. 3 years after the sentencing, the storm had mostly passed, but the wreckage still lingered. Rebecca and Julian's twins, Cleo and Vivian, were now 4 years old, curious, giggly, and blissfully unaware of the chaos that had preceded their birth. Their world was filled with bedtime stories, finger paints, and fairy lights. It was exactly the kind of life Rebecca had once feared she'd never have. Julian had grown quieter in recent years. Not withdrawn, just watchful. He'd built his firm into something stronger than ever, but he never let his guard down completely. After everything Jessica had tried, smear campaigns, false accusations, even hiring people to dig through his finances, he no longer assumed peace was permanent. Our parents, Linda and Michael, had taken custody of Jessica's 3 children, Ben, Aria, and Noah, now 8, 6, and 4. It wasn't easy. Ben still had night terrors. Aria barely spoke to strangers. Noah, born in the midst of Jessica's legal battles, didn't remember her at all. And Jessica? She was in a correctional psychiatric facility, sentenced to 5 years after violating a no-contact order and being found complicit in a stalking plot against Rebecca and Julian. Her diagnosis, narcissistic personality disorder with delusional tendencies, had been confirmed by 3 separate evaluations. Despite that, she continued to file lawsuits from inside. She accused Rebecca of parental alienation. She accused Julian of financial abuse. She tried suing our parents for stealing her children. Every case was thrown out within weeks, often by judges who now recognized her name instantly. The most disturbing chapter of this new phase came not from Jessica herself, but from a man named Isaac Morton, a former volunteer from a prison outreach program who had begun corresponding with her. Unbeknownst to staff, Jessica had spun him a fantasy, that she was a wrongly accused mother, that her children were being held hostage by a rich, manipulative sister. Isaac believed her, and he acted on it. It started with subtle things: emails to Julian's office, fake job applications submitted to Rebecca's nonprofit. But then Isaac was spotted outside Cleo and Vivian's preschool, twice. Both times, he didn't approach. He just watched. Julian installed new surveillance equipment that week. A week later, their security team caught Isaac attempting to follow Rebecca's car from a grocery store. He was arrested with photos of the children in his car, a loaded handgun in the glove compartment, and handwritten notes detailing Rebecca's daily routine: preschool drop-offs, grocery runs, even her OB/GYN appointments. Under interrogation, Isaac confessed that Jessica had promised him they would raise the kids together, that she was planning to sue for custody as soon as she got out. Rebecca didn't cry when she found out. She didn't yell either. She just held Cleo and Vivian a little tighter that night. Julian didn't leave her side for 2 days. After that, the court took swift action. Jessica's rights as a parent had been temporarily suspended during her incarceration. But this latest incident pushed things to a new threshold. Linda and Michael, after years of wavering, filed to permanently terminate Jessica's parental rights. The hearing was closed to the public. I attended with them. Ben testified, for the second time in his young life. She said if we helped her, we'd get to be on TV, he said softly. She said Aunt Rebecca was evil. It broke something in all of us. He was only 8, but already he understood betrayal more than most adults ever would. The judge granted the petition. Jessica was stripped of her parental rights. No more visits. No more letters. No more influence. She could no longer refer to the children in interviews, in books, or in court. She had lost them. Not because we wanted revenge, but because it was the only way to keep them safe. After Jessica's parental rights were permanently revoked, a strange and unfamiliar quiet settled over all of us. No more legal threats. No more anonymous letters. No men lurking near playgrounds. No more last-ditch lawsuits from prison. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that made you realize how loud trauma had been for so long. In that stillness, something remarkable happened. Rebecca began to write again. It started with short bedtime stories for her daughters, Cleo and Vivian, now 5 years old and curious about everything. At first, the stories were simple: girls and dragons, forests with riddles, sisters who rescued each other. But over time, they grew more layered, more lyrical, darker in places, yet always ending in light. Then, one day, she handed me a manuscript. It was titled The Mirror Sister. It's not about her, she said, but it's about surviving her. The book was haunting and tender. A children's fairy tale woven with the quiet ache of generational wounds and the resilient strength of those who choose healing. A small press picked it up. It sold modestly at first, but slowly, it built momentum, shared by teachers, therapists, parents of kids with complicated family stories. Within a year, it became a quiet bestseller. Without ever mentioning Jessica by name, Rebecca had told a truth that resonated far and wide. Her name was in magazines now, not because of scandal, but because of strength. She didn't become a victim. She didn't become a vigilante. She became something else entirely. Whole. Then came the final twist, the last line in a story too strange for fiction. Jessica died. The news came in the form of a brief obituary in a local paper. No cause of death listed. No funeral. Just her name, her birth year, and a single sentence. She is survived by no immediate family. It wasn't true, of course, but it felt like a fitting metaphor. Linda, our mother, cried for the child Jessica once was, not the woman she became. For the girl who used to braid her sister's hair and sleep with a teddy bear she named Justice. Michael, our father, took the obituary, folded it carefully, and placed it in a drawer he never opened again. Rebecca didn't cry. That night, she lit a candle in the kitchen window and sat in silence. Her face wasn't cold, just resolute. I'm not grieving her, she told me. I'm grieving who she made me become to survive her. We didn't tell the children until months later. By then, Cleo and Vivian were 7. Jessica's oldest son, Ben, was nearly 12 and growing into a serious, thoughtful kid. One afternoon, without prompting, he asked, "Is my mom dead?" We told him the truth, gently. He nodded, disappeared into his room, and returned 20 minutes later with a folded drawing. 5 stick figures: Rebecca, Julian, Cleo, Vivian, and himself. "She's not in it," he said, because she never really was. No one spoke. Rebecca simply hugged him and slipped the drawing into an old photo album, as if tucking the memory into a place it could no longer harm. Now we celebrate the mundane. School recitals, burnt birthday cakes, flu seasons, scraped knees. The beautiful, ordinary mess of a life that finally feels safe. Ben is in therapy, thriving at school, and showing a love for coding. Arya, quiet but resilient, writes poems and wins spelling bees. Little Noah, who never knew the chaos, calls Julian dad, without hesitation, and proudly claims Cleo and Vivian as his sisters. Sometimes people ask Rebecca if she ever forgave Jessica. She always says the same thing. "Forgiveness doesn't mean I let her in. It means I let her go." Jessica tried to destroy a life she couldn't control. Rebecca built a better one anyway. She didn't erase the past. She simply refused to live in it.